G'day guys, my name is CJ. Hope everyone's staying safe and washing those hands. We've seen the release of the OnePlus 8 Pro and it's very clearly going to be one of the best phones of the year. Of course at a heftier price. So if your budget doesn't really stretch that far, maybe it's worth considering the previous generation of phones. And so today, I'm going to be revisiting one of the best phones of 2019, see how it stacks in 2020, more than 12 months after it was released, and just consider maybe this is worth your time. This is the OnePlus 7 Pro, 1 year down the track. Let's take a look. Now, OnePlus is one of those companies that I love to hate or hate to love. Historically, they pump out some of the best performing phones at a fair price and compromise in features that most people can probably forgive. And as an Aussie, aside from the soft release of the OnePlus 5, there's no official support in the land down under. So the only way for us to be part of the family is to grey import these phones, which has its own perils regarding warranty and support. Not to mention some potential mobile network compatibility issues like with voice over LTE. I haven't seen much of that just yet, but at least for us Aussies, there's a few reasons for us to hold back. And so now that the OnePlus 8 series are around, we're going to be seeing more and more discounts on some of these older OnePlus phones, and that's only going to be a good thing. And maybe, just maybe, a bit more of an incentive for people like us Aussies, to grab one. And that's going to be primarily because one of the biggest benefits of OnePlus phones is something not seen in many Android competitors, and that's official up-to-date software support. A OnePlus 5T or 6 in 2020 more than likely still performs just as well as it did when they were first released. And they also still receive updates and support for the latest versions of Android. As far as I'm aware, OnePlus 5 models will still probably get Android 10, and that's insane for a phone that old, at least for Android standards. And all of this remains true for the OnePlus 7 Pro. Externally, it still has a very similar design to the OnePlus 8 series of phones, and over the last 12 months, I've always used the OnePlus 7 Pro naked without a case because unlike a lot of other modern smartphones, the matte back glass isn't a fingerprint magnet and I don't have to cover it up. Overall, it's done a really great job at hiding scratches and blemishes. It's still copped a few visible spots here and there, but overall, it looks pretty good and has aged really well. On top of that, the aluminium frame has coped pretty well too and still looks good. But don't for a second actually think it's that durable. I think the grade of aluminium they've used is actually quite soft and can be quite prone to being scratched. I mean, on the top of my phone here, this scar on the top was inflicted pretty quickly after I unboxed the phone after a pretty innocuous hit. So for more clumsy hands, it's not going to look this clean over this period. Then handling wise, even for 2020 standards, it's a big phone and sits on the larger spectrum. The curved edges, whilst conceptually and visually nice, the angle in which that glass curves and joins in with the frame actually gives it quite a sharp feel. So when holding it, it digs into my palm and fingers, and with prolonged use, it can be quite tiring to use one-handed. And you're going to feel it too because of how tightly you're going to grip the phone, since this is a pretty slippery one. But what isn't tiresome though, is looking at the screen and actually using the phone. The jump from 60 to 90 Hz refresh rate is a night and day jump in user experience, and maybe less so when you go from 90 to 120 Hz. So compared to the OnePlus 8 Pro, in my opinion, you're not really losing out on much. You also get the increased refresh rate at the full Quad HD resolution too, so you're not really missing out on much compared to the OnePlus 8 Pro. And then on top of that, the OnePlus 7 Pro is one of a very few phones that can truly brag about a full, distraction-free, immersive screen experience thanks to its pop-up selfie cam instead of the hole punch. Combine this with features like the super optimized Oxygen OS, the still powerful Snapdragon 855, the bucket loads of RAM in the phone, and one of the best haptic motors around, you've got a winning recipe for a smartphone, and it lasts. The whole experience of using full screen gestures, browsing the web, social media, gaming, and watching videos is still super fluid, super smooth, and super fast 12 months on. I haven't seen any evidence of any performance drop off over this time, and as mentioned before, the strong software support means it'll keep feeling like this for at least a few more years, something you can't necessarily guarantee with other Android phones. And in more evidence of the good work OnePlus is doing with software support is regular updates to improve functionality of the cameras, which to be fair was one of the weaker points of the OnePlus 7 series. Over this time, they've added support for more shooting options and features, including nightscape and 4K recording in the ultra-wide mode, and on top of that, there's been continued refinement in processing algorithms and functionality, with for me a very clear, palpable difference in shooting experience. The photos now look more true to life, more vibrant, more detailed and balanced. Oh, and the shutter lag has also improved too, which is really nice. And of course, there is the very robust support for Gcam as well, which is basically a port of the Pixel's camera app. So you can simply substitute out the default camera with a ported version of the Gcam, and you can use Google's processing algorithms instead. And really, it's come a long way. Initially, when the OnePlus 7 was first released, there were quite a few bugs and quirks associated with earlier ports, leading to a lot of crashing or weirdly desaturated photos. But these days, you can get an experience pretty damn close to a Google Pixel with general photography, portrait mode, or even night mode as well, which is nice. I'll pop a link to Gcam and the Telegram development group down below. And of course, the selfie cam. Photo quality is basically the same, but really, when it comes to aging, we're more interested in the actual pop-up mechanism itself. Even after a year, it hasn't remotely shown any sign of slowing down or malfunction of the mechanism. And I've also been using it for face unlock too, so it does get a pretty decent workout day to day. And even then, it still functions pretty damn solidly. Another component that hasn't really shown much aging actually is in battery life. Now the OnePlus 7 Pro wasn't and still isn't the most frugal of phones when it comes to power, but I guess you can't really expect too much when you've got a modest 4000 mAh battery, and that's combined with a 90Hz refresh rate screen pushing pixels at a quad HD resolution, so you can understand that. And so the main concern is that you can often see some drop off in longevity when you start using a phone for longer than a year. But throughout this time, I can happily say that the overall stamina has remained on the whole pretty consistent, meaning I can still get on average 5 hours of screen on time. And of course, you've still got warp charging on tap too with the included brick. I mean, it's not quite as fast as what OnePlus offers now with the 8 series, but still certainly faster than many flagships right now, iPhone 11 Pro Max included. Sure, wireless charging is definitely missed from a convenience perspective, but for the price you can find the phone for these days, it's a small price to pay in my opinion. And in what price are we paying? Well, in Australia, you can buy a grey import midnight blue version with 8 gigs of RAM for between 800 and 900 Australian dollars, so around 400 to 500 US dollars, give or take, depending on the retailer. And so that's a lot of performance for a price similar to what the iPhone SE costs. For us Aussies, that's a little bit easier to digest, especially if you're not getting any local warranty support for the money. So what exactly are you missing by opting for this older model though? Well, you don't get a 120Hz refresh rate, you get a slightly dimmer screen, you get a slightly smaller battery, you get slightly worse camera performance, but by no means terrible. In fact, it's probably better than most phones on the market. Maybe just not quite as good as the flagships. There's no IP waterproof rating or wireless charging. And I mean, it sounds like a lot, but honestly, these are all intangible things that independently won't make an ounce of difference in experience for the majority of people. What you will get though is almost equivalent performance to the OnePlus 8 phones. A full immersive high refresh rate screen, a premium looking and feeling device, really solid cameras that'll definitely do the job in most scenarios, the same reliable official software support, super fast warp charging that's equivalent if not better than the competition, all at a much more palatable price. And if you can deal with a notch, then you could go even cheaper with the base version instead. It's much better value now, and you're not really losing out on much. Either way, that's more cash left over for other things, and that can only be a good thing. Anyway guys, do you think it's still worth having a OnePlus 7 phone in 2020? I think it is, but let me know what you think in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching the video. Give us a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and ding the bell icon so you don't miss out. Stay safe out there guys, keep washing those hands, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And again, say good day to your mum for me. Cheers.